Εδώ, στο Tvwar του Matt και του Metal Hammer, στα παρασκήνια του Fuzz Club, λίγη ώρα πριν οι Therion ανέβουν στη σκηνή για ένα ακόμα show μπροστά στο αγαπημένο του ελληνικό κοινό. Με πολύ μεγάλη χαρά υποδεχόμαστε στην εκπομπή μας τον main man των Therion, τον κύριο Christofer Johnsson. Hey Christofer, how are you doing?
Thank you. It's nice to be here. I'm doing fine.
Well, last month or a couple of months ago, you released the third and last part of the Leviathan trilogy. So the first question is, how do you see now the whole project? I mean, how are those three albums connected to each other? I mean, is it really a trilogy, or those albums could have been released under different names?
Of course, we could have given them different names, but...
I mean, it's not something like the Antichrist album, which was 3 hours of music in one piece.
Well, Beloved Antichrist wasn't even an album. That was, it's a soundtrack for a rock musical, which sadly hasn't been staged yet.
Yeah.
But the thing with the Leviathan trilogy is that, first of all the songs had the same purpose, and the purpose was to try to give the fans what they want. So for the first time, we tried to do a songwriting, imagining, you know, that this could be songs that could be particularly appreciated by the fans, instead of just writing a bunch of songs and putting it on a record. So we tried to make a certain amount of hit songs, and we tried to make some more adventurous songs that a different part of the fans like. Originally it was supposed to be just one record, but we had so much fun and so much inspiration that it grew to 3 albums.
So how do you know what the fan wants? You talk to them through social media, you see the place in the platforms, and you can see which songs are having more attention. How can you say what the fans want?
Well, there's 2 ways. One is the old way. You play songs live,
right.
And everybody knew that To Make a Therion was our big hit back in the days, because you play To Make a Therion, they tear down the place. You play another song, they don't tear down the place. So over the years, it became clear that we had, you know, certain songs that were preferred. But these days it's very easy also with Spotify, Apple Music and so on, because you have statistics. You can see what people listen to, and if there's a huge difference, like if one song has, say, over 5 million listeners, streams, and you have another one which has 300,000, you know, then you realize this song is a hit song, the other one is not.
So do you sometimes feel pissed off when a song that you really like is not appreciated from the people? That's not shows on the views?
No, it's like people can listen what they like, but when you play live, it's always compromise. It's a mix of what we want to play and what people want to hear.
Okay.
But with the Leviathan thing, then first we tried to write hit songs, but we didn't try to copy the most popular songs, but we tried to figure out why do people like particularly these songs, what's the secret sauce, and then try to write new songs using that sauce, so that it doesn't sound like the old song, but hopefully get popular because of similar reasons.
What's the most popular Therion song in the platforms? To Make a Therion, Birth of Venus, Legitima?
Birth of Venus is the 3rd most popular one, Lemuria the 2nd most popular, and Rise of Sodom the most popular.
Right,
but it varies a little bit with regions also. Latin America, for instance, they really like the Quetzalcoatl song. And in Turkey, Rise of Sodom is like a billion times more popular than the other songs. And they also really like Ruler of Tamag from the new record. Anyway, so the idea was to write this. So that links the songs because they have the same songwriting concept. And the other thing is that they were recorded at the same time. We recorded drums and bass for pretty much everything at the same time, and guitars. And then we just did vocal recordings, choral recordings, and mixed separately for the record. So they're from the same writing session and the same recording session.
So did you know in the first place which songs will be on the first album, which songs will be on the second, and which one on the third?
Some of them were obvious, but others we had to see what happens during the process of recording. And there are some songs that we wrote over 40 songs.
Okay.
And we recorded, I don't know, 38 or something. So we have some songs that wasn't used. So sometimes you have an idea and you think this is going to be great, it's going to be like this. And then when you try to manifest it, it's like, it didn't turn out the way I imagined. And when it comes to a hit song, that's kind of essential, especially like if it didn't turn out as hitty as I felt, then maybe you remove it.
Okay.
So there were, I would say 50% of the songs were kind of clear where they would end up, and the others we have to go along. And we moved a few songs also because during the recording process, sometimes you came up with new ideas of arrangements that could make a song more adventurous or more hit-oriented. Like maybe you have a really good vocal line, and then somebody come up with a great harmonies to it, and like, wow, it became so much stronger with these harmonies. Now it's a hit song, and before maybe it wasn't.
Okay.
Or you try with different singers, because you don't really know what you want. Usually I know what I want, but sometimes you have these songs that are like, so you just try with different singers, and then maybe the vocal character of a singer makes it very likable all of a sudden. Or it can be the other way around, like it ruins it, and you think like, okay, maybe we have to take another singer just to save the song, but it brings down.
Well, so what is the idea that connects the three Leviathan albums? What is the main idea that brings the three of them together?
That they are meant to please the fans.
All right. And thematically, lyrically, the idea?
Lyrically, nothing.
Nothing?
No. It's the same type of lyrics we always had. They're very, very different topics from song to song.
Yes.
But the thing is, all these years...
It's not all about religious practices all over the world.
Well, it has to do with religious mythology and their mythology of certain creatures in folklore. It's like any Therion album since 96.
Yeah. Therion, to me, as a fan of the band from the 90s, it's that this band is like an educational institution. I mean, you don't listen to Therion, you study Therion. And this thing starts from the early days. I mean, you introduce us to Lepaka and the Cliffoths, and what's that? And the Cliffoths and the Sephiroths, and then the dragons came, and Theli, and Vovin, and then what about the Atlantis? And now let's decipher the runes, and now it's about Lemuria, and then the stars, the Sirius, and then back to the mysticism of the Gothic Kabbalah, and Sitra Ahra, and then the French album with the hits from the 60s and the 50s.
And then there are covers, so then it doesn't matter what they sing about.
There's so much information in this band.
Yeah, well, we're a colorful band, I guess.
So where all this knowledge is coming from?
Well, I was always interested in mythology and the occult, and I always surrounded myself with friends that have a very deep knowledge in it. And some of them have a better knowledge than me, and also have a better sense of poetry than me. When I wrote the lyrics myself in the old time, it was always very, very uphill. It was something I had to do in the last minute. I would just sing whatever in the rehearsal room, and then 1 week before we would record the album, I would be like, "Fuck, I need the lyrics. We're gonna record in 1 week," and then push myself to do it. I usually had an idea of what I wanted the song to be about, and maybe wrote a verse or something, get started, but I always had a problem finishing it. I'm not a poet. I can be, but it's not in my nature. It's really difficult for me to produce a lot from it. Sometimes I would even finish the lyrics in the studio. It's like, okay, I'm gonna do vocals tonight. I need to have something to sing, finish it. So it was a great relief when I came up with the idea to ask friends that are better suited to do lyrics to do it for me. It's kind of a luxury. It's like bolt food,
You have done so far 19 albums or something like that, which is a lot. I mean, Maiden don't have 19 albums. Judas Priest have 19, and they're 20 years older than you. I mean, Rush have 19 albums. I mean, do you write all the time? Do you compose all the time? You have a recorder with your recording ideas when you're in the bathroom or whatever? Are you doing this all the time? How is it possible?
It's like getting the genie out of the bottle. When I start writing and you open the bottle, genie and demons and everything just comes out.
Okay.
That's why we were so productive now. And now we're even more productive because me and Thomas became a very good songwriting team. Before I would write alone, and if we were writing together, it usually meant they sent me a song that didn't fit for Therion, so I would rewrite it for Therion. Okay. Or they sent me an incomplete song, and I would complete it. But with Thomas, it works the other way around as well. And I always had billion songs that were unfinished. Okay. But except Melik Taos on the Sirius B album, where I sent it to Christian Niemann, and then he sent it back to me, and I finished it. I never really shared ideas like that. I just kept them in a computer folder for a rainy day, but the rainy day never came. I always had enough songs.
Man, you are so productive, you're making so many albums. Do you think that the fans have the time to absorb and listen to the music? I mean, the information is coming from all around nowadays. Bands usually do albums every 2 or every 4 years. You're doing this 3 albums in 3 years, the Leviathan ones. And the previous, the Antichrist, was 3 years ago, but it was 3 hours long.
I don't think it's a problem because there are bands releasing albums all the time. It's no difference if it's another Therion album or another metal band, you know. I mean, back in the days, you know, when we had to save
up. Look at the 70s where bands used to have 2 albums in a year.
Yeah, they would write the music on tour, you know, like Deep Purple, Uriah Heep, that type of bands. Sadly, that's why they're, especially with Uriah Heep, that's why their album quality would decline because the manager would tell them, write another record, and they would write it on tour and go into the studio. But I mean, back in the days, you couldn't afford more than 1 record per month anyway, you know, you just had to save up the money. So I grew up with having, well, when I was really small and discovered metal, there would be like 4 albums a year, maybe. You know.
What was the first album that got you into metal?
I got it on a cassette. First, it was Accept, Restless and Wild on one side, and Judas Priest, Screaming for Vengeance on the other side. A friend taped it for me because I heard Balls to the Wall on the radio, and I was like, "Wow, what's this?" And I just took a cassette lying around, and I recorded the second half of it. I could only capture the second half, so I would listen to this half song over and over again. And then I found out that one guy in my class in school that he listened to Accept, but he didn't have the new record yet, so he recorded me Restless and Wild. And then he said, "Oh, if you like this, maybe you will like the other one, Judas Priest." So he put that on the other side of the cassette. So then at least I had full records that I would flip all day, this cassette. And then I had to wait for, I think, Christmas must have been to have Balls to the Wall, you know, on vinyl. So that was my first actual record.
Okay. Talking of old school heavy metal, I read an interview of yours where you said that you're thinking of doing an old school metal project or something like that.
Not thinking about it, I'm doing it.
You're doing it?
Yeah, speaking about how long time it takes, I wrote it in 2 weeks. Because if I plug in a guitar, they will come heavy metal. You know, it's in my spine, it's in my blood. So if I would try a new amplifier and just plug it in, I would write a heavy metal riff. Often they would sound very much alike each other, but they would be 80s heavy metal.
So it's like Accept, Scorpions, Judas Priest, and Kiss.
Accept and Judas Priest, mostly. I mean, sometimes Maidenish, but mostly I write riffs like K.K. Downing and well, actually, I don't know exactly who wrote what Jörg Fischer wrote on the early records. But, yeah, very Wolf Hoffman-ish for sure. Yes. But it could be it's also a bit Jörg Fischerish. But the funny thing is, when I was a very small kid, K.K. Downing and Wolf Hoffman, they were my 2 biggest heroes. And Rob Halford. But from the guitar players. And I play a Flying V because of those 2 guitar players.
So I have to ask you, what do you think about the K.K.-less Judas Priest?
Well, they're still good. It's Judas Priest, but it would be better with K.K. because of the songwriting dynamics and also the whole duo harmony guitar, you know, with one guitar player doing everything. It's a bit more like other bands, you know. They lost a little bit of what made them original. Of course, they didn't invent that. I mean, you had this duo guitar was Wishbone Ash, I think, coming up with. But they kind of introduced it to heavy metal, you know. And I think it's sad in a way because they're my old heroes. And to me, I cannot claim to know, unlike all the cunts on internet who think they know everything and they're experts. I don't claim to know anything, but to me it seems likely that the main reason they don't want it back is because of economic reasons. Because now you have 2 guys controlling the band that go on live, and they can just pay the other guys. You know, their salaries will, you know, I don't know, double or triple. You know, that's a lot of big bands. But that made it big. When you have the new guy coming in, they're not splitting it. You know, he get a paycheck, and it could be anything from, you know, even the 80s when Matthias Jabs got into Scorpions. It's not like, hey, you have a piece of the pie, or Sabaton or Ghost or any band. You have somebody who build it up, and they say this is our music company, and you will be employees. And you can have a good salary, you know. Great life, a lot of money and everything, but there's no such thing as equal shares. And I think Judas Priest, they're getting very old now, so, you know, probably thinking about their retirement, you know, collecting as much as they can.
Yes, I see.
So I disagree of it, but I understand it.
Okay,
But I underline, I don't know that this is the case. I would never claim to say I know it, but that's my theory.
That's clear. All right. So let's go back to your old school metal project. Who sings in that?
It will be different singers.
All right.
I'm not.
So it's coming out this year or something?
I don't have time to finish. I will finish it this year, but I don't have time to release it.
Therion moniker?
It will be a Therion side project because it will be only Therion people playing the music. But I invited Thomas for the songwriting also. So I wrote the basics for it, and then he contributed some. But the groundwork was done in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Just plugged in the guitar and just wrote all the riffs. Then we still have to work a little bit on some vocal harmonies and so on. I mean, fine-tune things. But we didn't have time. I mean, this we did in the spare time this year, so 2 weeks. And I also started to recording it. So we recorded the drums, bass, and guitars for it. And also my other side project, Luciferian Light Orchestra.
I was about to ask you about that.
2 albums. We nailed all the fundamentals for it this year.
I mean, it's been 9 years since the first album.
Yeah, I had like 7 or 8 songs. I think I had 8 songs, but one, I'm not sure if we made it in the end. Anyway, I had a bunch of songs, almost enough for one record.
Well, so that was Christofer. Thank you very much for your time.
Well, thank you.